Yes, we've spoken to Timothy Otieno, who in turn spoke to Commissioner Tom Ojenda, and they say it was easy for them to reach at David Maraga, who, as Tom Ojenda says, stood out and scored highly with most of the commissioners. And there was really no push and shove over who would be picked for this particular position. All right, let's now speak to a lawyer to get another perspective on what exactly they think. And at our city center studios, we are joined by Okwe Achando, who is a lawyer, just to give us his views about what exactly he thinks about the pick that has been made here by the Judicial Service Commission. A very good afternoon to you, sir. Many thanks for joining us here. Is David Kanani Maraga the right pick?
Well, I don't think it's a question of the right or the wrong pick. It depends on so many factors that the Judicial Service Commission took into consideration in arriving at David Maraga as being the Chief Justice, the second Chief Justice under the Constitution. First of all, we have to believe in our institutions, in the sense that the Judicial Service Commission is entrusted with interviewing the applicants who are interested in being the Chief Justice of this country. I do believe that there are those who will not agree with him as being the right candidate, and there are those who will also say he is the right candidate. We have to look at the person. We have to look at, when you want to become the Chief Justice, as he decided to be one, we have to look at the track record. Who is Justice Maraga? He has been in private practice, which means he understands the problems of the practitioners. He practiced in Nakuru for quite a while before he was made the Chief Justice, as we've given the history. He has also now been in the judiciary. He's a man from within. You see, I tend to think that what the Judicial Service Commission was also considering was they wanted somebody who comes from the inside the house, not outside, as we heard the last Chief Justice, Dr. William Mutunga, was not one of the insiders. So that could have been a factor which played. And given the experience that he also has, and the kind of questions which were put to him, he answered them well. The only problem I have is the questions were not systematic in a manner that you could determine who was going to be named as the Chief Justice at that time. You would find A being asked different questions, B different questions, C. They should have had a systematic manner in which the questions were the same, and in that case, we would have had an inkling of how the interviews were done. But looking at Chief Justice Maraga, whom I would now call as the Chief Justice, though he has not been taken through the whole process and named by the President, is conservative. He's a conservative. And being a conservative may not augur well for some people, but may also do with a certain group of people. In being a conservative judge or a Chief Justice, of course, I know he has only a single vote when it comes to a decision of the Supreme Court, some of the matters which will be at the Supreme Court. If we look at now him being the President of the Supreme Court, because he wears two hats. One is the head of the judiciary, at the same time, he is the President of the Supreme Court. By virtue of being the President of the Supreme Court, there are certain cases which are going to be taken to the Supreme Court, particularly when we talk of lesbianism, we talk of gayism, we talk of the cases of surrogate. Then you may find being a very staunch SDA is understanding of the law is quite proper. But when it comes to the ethics, he may have a different view in respect to those issues. So he's a conservative that I think everybody knows. Even himself, he accepted he's a conservative. And he cannot, during the presidential elections, if the presidential election has to be had throughout, including Saturdays, he will not participate in those elections. And being the Chief Justice, saying that he cannot participate, then it means we will have to add more days for the hearing of the petition. I don't know how he's going to reconcile that with his duty. There is also the issue of the issue of the problems which we have within the court system, like corruption. How is he going to deal with the corruptions? Since he has been in, he understands the corruption cartels and how they operate. I would expect him to fight corruption with an independent mind, not being influenced by any group of people or any person or any institution, so that we have a perfect system, a justice system that embraces all and sundry. If he can overcome that obstacle, he will go down in the history of this country as a Chief Justice that fought corruption, because that is the fundamental issue that we have. He has to correct the image of the judiciary, in the sense that we have seen at the Supreme Court level, when the petition was there, you'd see the judges were not talking, even at a personal level, in unison. Of course, you don't expect them to do so, but they were not like brothers and sisters. We would like a unifying factor. A person, when you take over, you take a house, and that house, you must sweep it in a manner that everybody appreciates. If he does that, he will also become a Chief Justice that united the Supreme Court. Because the Supreme Court, as we know it right now, it has divergent views, which is okay, but at a personal level, I don't think the interaction is one of the best, going by their own personal displays.
So do you think it will be hard for David Maraga, if at all he gets the job? Do you think it will be hard for him to be a unifying factor for the judiciary?
I don't think it will be very difficult for him, because most of the judges, he knows them. He has interacted with them. He was a High Court judge. He was promoted to become the Court of Appeal, and now he's heading the Kisumu Court. I believe he has interacted with these people. He will be a unifying factor, unless he fails. And given also his staunch Christian background, if he exercises that well, then I believe, and his personal mean, he will become a unifying factor. You know, when the Judicial Service Commission was interviewing these people, it was not only on the intellectual capability that they looked at, that how many degrees do you have, how many books have you written. Those were just factors they considered. But there were also other factors like age. He's 64. And which means he will only serve one term. That could have played with the Judicial Service Commission, because they didn't want a Chief Justice who is younger, or also too old, who will go there for 2 years and then leaves. So these are some of the factors. Maybe politics also played a role. But in my own view, if you asked me, I'd been interviewed on this before by one of the media houses, whom do you think would take over? I think I had two, and one of them has taken over, because I was looking at the history of Kenya, and I was of the view that it will come from a minority. But I do not know from which minority.
All right, thank you very much. I'll be getting back to you in a few. Let's just get more views for our fellow lawyer who is in the studio with me. JC Odwor, a lawyer as well, is joining me in studio now. And if you're just joining us, just to mention, David Maraga has been nominated for the position of Chief Justice by the Judicial Service Commission on what they've termed as a unanimous decision. And David Maraga is the presiding judge of the Court of Appeal in Kisumu, and he holds a law degree and master's from the University of Nairobi, heads the Judicial Committee on Elections that is tasked with resolving the electoral disputes that will be arising after the 2017 general election. But let's get more views here in the studio from JC Odwor, who is also a lawyer. Very good afternoon to you. You were here earlier. We were just talking about this, and you've heard what your colleague there, Okoye Chando, says. There are some factors that could have led the Judicial Service Commission to pick David Maraga. One, his track record. Two, some of the beliefs he has. He's termed him as a conservative. Three, he is an insider, unlike his predecessor, Willie Mutunga. Do you think these are the factors that contributed to the Judicial Service Commission picking David Maraga for this position?
To a very large extent, these factors did influence the Judicial Service Commission in choosing Justice Maraga to be the next Chief Justice of Kenya. I had the privilege of being trained by Maraga when I was doing my internal judicial attachment. I did under him in Nakuru. And he's a sober person, very open-minded. And that open-minded, I don't think he will term him as a very conservative simply because of his religious beliefs. Because if you term the Chief Justice as conservative, then it won't augur well for the minority people who have divergent views. With regard to his experience in the judiciary, I think he was the best bet. For the lawyers, I think we are okay with him. This is a person who has practiced law as an advocate of the High Court of Kenya. He knows what it entails to be a lawyer and go to court every day. And he has served as a judge since 2003. It's a long stint, rising through the ranks from the High Court to Court of Appeal, now Supreme Court. It further gives the judicial officers some hope that you can be promoted, you can rise through the ranks, instead of having the feeling that you're working, but then somebody is coming from the outside world to come and take a job that you qualify for. So I think it is a good thing.
That, with the question of him being an insider, do you think it would be easier for him to deal with some of the nagging problems in the judiciary, the cartels, corruption, the disunity among those in the judiciary? With him being an insider, will it be easy for him to tackle such problems?
Not really an insider per se, because yes, he is a judge, he has been a judge, but then the position he has held before as a judge, he wasn't really administrative, it was purely judicial. Administrative stint, yes, he's now the presiding court of appeal in Kisumu. He was the resident judge in Nakuru, and he's worked in a number of sessions. If that track record is anything to go by with regard to his administrative functionality, then he's a good person for the job. The insider bit, meaning that he's been a judge, therefore he can't tackle corruption. I think that is kind of far-fetched, because he didn't have those powers.
It would be easier for him because he knows the cartels. Do you think it would
Actually, it will be. To some extent, it will work for him. To some extent, critics will go against that and say that this has been part of the system, then you don't trust a person who has been part of the system. But then, given the track record of the session he's handled, the session he's held, and that performance, then I think he manages.
All right. Hold that thought. I understand.